Welcome back to the Performance Circus with Mitch Creek and the one and only Beck Cole. Now today we are going to continue on sorting through the clutter of elite behaviours, mindset and lifestyle. And we're going to handball to Beck Cole and introduce who we're speaking to today.
He has played 235 games for Essendon Football Club. He's been part of the leadership group since he was 20 and skipper for 6 years. And now I'm going to handball over to Dyson Heppell.
Hey, there we go. Welcome. Lovely. I love it.
Thanks, gang.
Fresh off a Bali trip too. Look at him tan and glowing.
Little glow.
And to start you off, hot off the press, thanks to Champion. We couldn't do this episode without them today. Have a look at your pizza slice. It's pretty bloody cool.
There's no pineapple on it. There's no pineapple.
Do you run pineapple on pizza?
No. If you run pineapple on pizza, you're getting booted off this podcast before it starts.
Nice donut Champion tea for you.
That's gross.
Thanks to the crew at Champion. Good work.
That's great.
Guys. I'll be rocking that.
Well, Dice, what we want to get in with you today, we really want to talk about leadership. You've been, I guess, you started that journey really early in your career, which is really impressive. Creaky, you and I are also captains of our basketball teams. And I think the first question I really want to start you off is were you born a leader, or is this something that you grew into? Because it's not a natural thing for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's a great shout. I think growing up from a young age, I was always quite vocal, so quite confident in myself. But I think you and I may have actually been the skippers of the under-12 VPSSA b-ball team.
We need to find a photo of that.
We do, guaranteed. So all of us go way back actually, which is unreal. And it's been amazing to follow the journeys of the three of us as we've been going. And but I think coming back, leadership was probably more natural. I think growing up as a kid, always just having a crack at whatever it may be. And I was always one that was just trying to encourage everyone else around me just to get the best out of themselves, I guess. And and then, as I went along, you learn to develop new skills. You learn to know how to push and prod and who to cuddle and things like that. So it's been quite a journey, but I do love the growth aspect of leadership. Yeah,
I think we grew up country Vic boys. You're a Langatha boy. I'm back from the country of Horsham. Beck's one of the more metro gals.
Repping the babs.
Yeah. She's one of the ones we didn't really want to talk to too much. But we had under 16 national champs. Yep. Vic country together is where we first met, and you're a bit of a two-prong athlete at the time. You were a gun at footy, you were a gun at basketball, you were a little shooting point guard. You did a bit of everything, and I guess there's a lot of basketballs that transition into footy really, really naturally, but then you don't see the progression from AFL into basketball, but you definitely made the jump. Clearly now as a captain, as an All-Australian in AFL, you've been very dominant for a long time now, but do you feel that there's a transitional statement that multi-sport athletes are those that are better suited for the games that we do play? Like I have always done multiple things. You've always played multiple sports. The guys that grow up and just play footy, I feel like aren't as dominant as some of the guys that come into the league and have been basketballers or have been, other multi-sport athletes. Do you kind of see that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys that have played prior to me, used to look at Scott Pendlebury, Jared Roughhead, guys like this that just have that vision and awareness, which comes from a basketball background. But there's certainly a hell of a lot of crossover. Even just the ability to in tight spaces, things like that, and being able to work through those type of situations. And I reckon the basketball had a major part to play in, I guess, my progression as a footballer, definitely. But I think mate, I reckon we met way earlier than that. We used to have some great tussles with the Horsham Hornets back in the day.
We hated you guys.
We absolutely hated you.
You had 50 on us in one of the games, and I remember it was the easiest 50 I've ever seen, coming from me, who literally couldn't fall out of a boat and hit water in the ocean when I shot. So
I did drop 50, but also we got done because you had a stacked team.
Yeah, we had a stacked team. Filthy team.
I remember just crying. I was actually a horror sport when I was a sore loser, real sore loser when I was young. But anyway, I did drop 50 on you.
You did. That was the first 50 ball I ever had, and it's the last one I've actually ever had against our team. But we had gun
Mate,
squad.
you had a gun squad.
A lot of guys that played AFL even now. We had
Yes.
Jake Lloyd.
Yep, Lloydie.
Danny Kennedy was even on a team
DK.
we had on the podcast. Michael O'Callaghan, Big Micah,
Riley
McFarlane.
They had a team.
We had an absolute squad. Sean Bruce.
Legit.
You know, there's quite a talented list there, but
You used to have a good celebrity basketball matchup team, I think. That's a lot of country boys coming out
Isn't
and
it?
doing good things.
Yeah.
But you weren't the man then.
no, I sucked.
Like,
I was a
wasn't
turd.
until like 16, so
I
you
was a
just went
turd.
bang.
Yeah.
He
I
just
had
looked like he did 1 million chin-ups a day. I remember going to the AIS and I was like, why are you so shredded? We're all like
Checking
just
out.
hit puberty.
That is true.
Nuts. Do you think there's a difference between being a leader of a basketball team compared to being a leader of a football team? Because for me, we're a bit smaller. There's, maybe 10 to 15 people. Well, in the women's league, we have maybe 3 coaches if you're lucky. Whereas I feel like with football, it's almost like a high school. Like there's so many people involved.
Yeah, that's a good shout. It'd be interesting to feed off you guys on this one because you do see the ego dynamic of basketball and the big personalities and whatever. And no doubt they're there in footy. But for mine, I guess I probably didn't play to we were country boys. We were cruising in under 16s, but more so the elite level when there is there's a gun, there's a couple of key guns where it'd be a tough dynamic to navigate at times. Just on footy, I think you need a leadership group to be able to create a culture and foster a really healthy environment for guys to thrive in.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas because you do have so many people, and they're at the elite level, it ranges from 18 to 35 or whatever. So it's so many different personalities, and I'm not going to suit my leadership style is not going to suit everyone. So you do need a team around you to be able to navigate that. Yeah.
I think it's hard because what you touch on, basketball's pretty simple because you've probably got 3 groups. You've probably got the mature veterans that have been around a lot longer and understand the game. They understand the leadership qualities that you kind of, put forth every single day. And a lot of it's just lead by example, don't say too much. And as you said, you cuddle with the right people, you're aggressive and firm with others, you're understanding and a little quieter on the side. But then in footy, there's probably 15 groups.
Yeah.
And then there's guys that aren't playing up and down lists. And you've got to walk into the room and kind of have that voice over everyone to an extent. And I've always attributed leaderships to wolves. And I love the saying of, the wolf is not the leader of the pack. He doesn't walk out in front. The true leader stands behind all the way at the back and he watches the pace of the pack. He watches how, the strongest and the bravest are at the front. Then it's the sick and the elderly and they set the pace. Then it's the core group, then it's the warriors, and then right at the back, there's the leader that everyone thinks is them. That's how I've always looked at leadership is it's not about being at the front. It's just doing the right thing, making sure everyone's going in the same direction. But with 45 blokes, some are 18, walking into a couple of $100,000. Some guys are on $1 million. It's just like, holy shit, how am I going to try and get this bunch of hooligans essentially? Because we're all pretty rough around the neck.
Yeah.
When I remember us growing up, you think about the camps you went to and, you got your sleeping bag on the floor of the stadium and they're lights out at 9 and everyone's walking around, boys on one court, girls on the other court, guys and girls are sneaking around everywhere.
You were the ringleader all of this.
Shut up.
Every part of that.
I did not say that story.
He goes, don't throw it. You were the wolf that was charging. Mate.
I was biting legs.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it feels. Is like you're trying to keep people into some kind of alignment of this is the greater good, this is the goal we have, but how do we keep everyone on point? And I think that's a thing I want you to touch on is in a big group of people, when there are so many people that are straying from the pack almost, how do you kind of navigate, I guess, the whole ecosystem? Because it's not just you, it's the coaches and everyone else. But in a large group like that, how do you feel your leadership traits have developed, I guess, over the years to help maintain that steady direction of, I guess, the greater good?
Yeah. I love your analogy. I reckon I'm stealing that one, the wolf. I think that has been one of the biggest growth journeys for me is like when I took over the role as skipper when I was 24, I think 23, 24. And for me at the time, it was like I had to be the voice. I had to be the one that was, dominating games and being the influence and looking after everyone and just I feel like I spread myself too thin everywhere, And I felt like I was being my authentic self at the time, but I found it just ended up draining my energy. And in the end, it was like, okay, I need to take care of me first to be able to lead the best I possibly can. And that was to that point of like, take a bit of a back seat, let everyone else be the voice, be the influence. And if I need to step in, then you can. And it's like, I found it quite really interesting journey. The more that I sort of just navigated and watched, and I noticed guys more that I wouldn't have before. You know, I would be like, okay, I've got a good read on this person where you might be a bit down. You can go and just have a good conversation with them, and do they need a pep up or whatever it may be. And I found like my relationships got a hell of a lot stronger when I just took a bit of a foot off the throttle a bit and just observed, and then was able to have a much stronger impact, I feel, and felt more relaxed and more authentic in my own leadership. And just like, in the end, it was like, I was just enjoying my footy more and just let things flow. And, if the group needed a rev at any stage, I would. It wasn't just like, a time where it was just like, I just had to do it and say everything. So, yeah, it was quite a good learning journey over the 6 years as skipper, yeah.
Being 24, I think that is so young to lead a team in general, but at 20, you're part of the leadership group, which is massive. Is there one captain you had, especially I want to ask about like James Hird, did you learn a lot from him? And I guess like what things did he possess that you were maybe like, oh, I know maybe that's not in my toolbox, but I want to add that in because I think that would be great for, when it's my turn to serve.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was Hirdy's first year as coach, which was my first year as a player. Barracked for Essendon growing up. Idolised Hirdy, so it was just an amazing experience for me coming in. And he was just a massive influence on my career in terms of not waiting to be a leader, not waiting to, you wait your time and then you grow. And then he was just like, from the get-go, he's like, mate, you just go and set your mark on whatever you want your career to be and wherever you want to steer this club. And so his backing and support was just enormous for me just to go for it. And, at times it was like, we had guys at the club in that period that were of the old school mentality of like, earn your respect first. Don't, you can't talk up until, what do you know? You've been here for 3 weeks and you're talking up in front of everyone, things like that. And the things I learned from him was his genuine care that he had for his teammates was just phenomenal. Like he would know, the headspace, even he could watch you run and just be like, you seem a bit lethargic or whatever. He just had such a good read on the group. And Job just played a big part in terms of, setting up training, what the weekly loads look like, all of this kind of stuff that I wasn't privy to at the time until I became part of the leadership group, and you just see the influence that he had on the broader club as well was really impressive. So I had big boots to fill after that.
It's impressive just to hear that there's so many leadership styles. There's so many different characters we have to kind of portray ourselves to be, but then you go home and then when you've run around in front of 100,000 screaming Dons fans, like what does Dyson do to switch off? Like I know, you've got family, you've got your dog. I know I've seen it all over social media, but what is the quiet time? Because there's this muse. It's like a quiet that you get in a car after you probably had like someone who's had a really awkward argument. I always tell people this. It's a really awkward argument in your car. They get out of the car and it's dead silent. You imagine that. That's what it feels like for me when I finish a game. When there's 12,000 in a little arena, screaming, going crazy. Everyone's asking, pulling at you in a million different ways. I want this, I want that. But then you go home and there's that muse and it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do to kind of get away from the craziness that we've kind of submerged ourselves into?
Yeah, sure. It's Dons fans are just incredible. Like when we're up and about, there's nothing better. But also on the other spectrum, when you're not up and about, you get absolutely fed. So look, and it is quite addictive, that rush of the crowd and and the best part that I love is that I can make someone's day. Like you get that feeling of like you give your boots to a kid after a game, or just even signing autographs before the game and chewing the fat with the crowd. And it is just an amazing feeling to put a smile on particularly kids' faces. And so you sort of encapsulate in that bubble during the game and after the game and then, as you say, you get home and whether it's the sickening feeling of getting smashed or the elation of a huge win, sharing that with your teammates, you are just riding on these emotions. And I think, for mine, it's taken me a while, but I'm quite good now at being able to just get home and sort of putting a cut in that game and then just being able to relax for the afternoon or whatever it may be. And that's, as you say, spending time with Kate, my fiance, and thank you. And it took us 13 years. It was a long apprenticeship that we got there.
Good on Kate.
Yeah. And then, as you say, spend a couple of golden retrievers. Love spending time with the dogs, close to the beach. So often I'll go down and just have a dip in the beach and sort of rinse off and wind down from the game. And I find the quicker you can clutter and just declutter your thoughts and get them out and relax as much as you can, your body recovers quicker, you're able to process things, you have better conversations, and then your week just rolls on and flows from there. So,
do you think that when you said just then, I kind of picked up on it, but you felt like you go to the beach and you just like rinse yourself, like that's kind of shedding the person who you've portrayed yourself to be to everybody? Because Dyson Heppell isn't Dyson Heppell the footballer.
Yeah.
And I know with our previous guest in Danny Kennedy, like we both work with him very closely, but getting rid of that, that shell of who you've kind of portrayed yourself to be to the world, to the 100,000, to the win, the loss, the whatever, the critics, because you get home, there's social media, there's everything. And it's great. Sometimes it's phenomenal. Fuck, it's good. Like, how good's this? Life's great.
Yeah.
You get home and then you sit there and it's pretty quiet. Kate might be making some food, or she might be, sitting there getting some popcorn for a movie, and you're like, fuck. That's crazy. You have to get rid of that little fake person, because that's not who you are.
That is exactly right. And that has been a process as well of not wrapping my whole identity up in Dyson the footballer. It's something that I do, but it's not who I am at my deepest core. And I truly feel like I'm at a point now where I'm living that, like I've always said, like people say, you're not just a footballer, but it's like footy was everything. That was my life. I was obsessed. And then now it's at a point where I'm at the later part of my career. I've had all these experiences. I've had hundreds of teammates, 6 different coaches, all this. It's just a massive experience. But more for me, it's just like doing the internal work that has allowed me to free myself from that, the real identity of the footballer. So I'm able to just, navigate whatever that may be as best I can, whether it's, social media, getting slandered, or press conferences when you've lost 6 games straight, or whatever that is like. You can handle that now.
They're fun. Yeah. I've been on those ones, and they're not very fun. Yeah. They are fun because you kind of have to take the piss of yourself a little bit.
Yes.
And be like, I fucking suck right now. I get that. You lost 6 on the trot. Yeah, I know. How good's that? Mate, and we should try and make it 7.
Yeah, and credit to you too, mate. Like, you do handle those situations unbelievably well. And like, I reckon you're from, whenever, from young kids to your development as a leader and as a person has just been phenomenal to watch. So, I thought I'd throw that in there.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, quick plug.
Quick plug. I'll pump you out. That's it. That's all you get.
I'll give you that $20 after. I'll pay for your parking.
Yeah, but no, it's sick. It's like, it's been really cool to just come on this journey together. And you were a young leader yourself, and it's been really interesting just to, I guess, track our journeys. And like as we've spoken along the lines, you just learn so much as you go. Yeah.
It is nuts how it does take so long, or towards the end of your career, to actually realize, hey, I'm more than just an athlete. Like, I honestly, mine probably happened like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was like fully accepted. That's the word I love to use, because I might say it and I might really believe it.
Yes.
And then you're in a really shitty period and you're like, yep. Definitely don't I don't 100% believe that, do I? And I feel like I've gotten to that stage finally, just like you have. But do you just find now that you've accepted it, like you said, you have more of yourself to give? Maybe are you more vulnerable to your teammates? And do you think that you can actually get back more from them than you could maybe when you were 24?
No doubt, Beck. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I think it also, I reckon, at the back end of last year, I handed over the captaincy as well, and I was so ready for that. Like, I'd feel like my time was done as the skipper. There was a new coach coming in. Zachy Merritt he does a power of work to work on himself, and he was just blossoming into this leader. And what I didn't realise though, like at the time, the weight off the shoulders when I actually announced that I was handing over the reins, and just felt this real just lightness and freedom. And And then from there, it was like, all right, how much fun can I just have with my footy? And then to that point, it was like, all right, if I'm in this really healthy frame of mind and just like being able to just let negative emotions flow through me, all that kind of stuff, my body was healthy, I was enjoying myself, and it was like I felt like guys would warm to me a hell of a lot more. So it was this really interesting transition period where I nearly think I handed over the reins as a skipper and nearly became a better leader off the back of that, just from just like the pure just relaxing and whatever, just being myself. But I feel like all the bank of work that I'd done over the years would sort of just come to the fore, and then you're just in a really healthy space to be able to lead.
And as an elite athlete, it has its highs of highs and its lows of goddamn lows. You've had a very big journey of being in the leadership group and the captaincy. When you had this supplement saga, that's AFL is so huge in this country. I just feel like I couldn't even imagine having to go through what a club could, or what people want to say to you, emails, letters on Instagram. But for you, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about, how did you feel like you had to lead this team after that? And I guess, how did you get the group together? How did you get the coaches and the staff to be like, we are a unit, forget the outside. We've served our time. We're not bad people. Yeah. Everyone makes mistakes. But talk about maybe a little bit through that journey of, damn, this whole thing just happened. That's a huge load.
Yeah.
What now? How do we go about that?
Yeah, guaranteed. It was just like, it's funny now. Like I look back, I have no ill feelings. I have no regrets or whatever it is towards that time period. But, going through that phase was a real eye opener to be like, okay, I really have to do the work here, not to wrap myself up in the identity of the footballer, because that could just bring me undone completely. So that was a massive growth period for me. When all that began, I was 19. I was really young, and then it wasn't until I was 22, or 3, that we ended up having the year off. And then it was just a whirlwind of emotions that just was this huge pool of chaos at times. But for me, I reckon I grew a lot through that period, because for mine, I was more worried about my teammates. I had guys that literally ended their careers. They were done after that. And that's, I just felt enormous just sadness for a lot of my teammates. And then, looking at it, coming back into the preseason, I was just in more of a space of gratitude for footy. I was like, I just love this game. I missed it so much, not being able to play, not being able to go to the club. I couldn't even train at proper grounds. We were having it was a bizarre
kick in the backyard.
Literally.
The 4 trees just cut one of the goal, and here's the goals. Look at that.
No doubt. And it was, it took me time to get to that period, but it was like, man, I was just buzzing when we got back to the club, and I'd taken over the reins as a skipper. Jared Ruffhead grew up with his family and that in Leongatha. He'd taken over the captaincy at Hawthorn, and we played each other round 1 Friday night in front of 95,000. And I was like, this is the best feeling I've ever had, running out, leading the team, and just the experience of that was just incredible. And, just when you're in flow, I just hit this game. I probably played the best game of my life. I don't reckon I've ever kicked a snag outside 50, and I was hit.
Dropped a couple of 60s, some super goals.
I don't know what was happening.
It's probably because you had a year of good bloody rest.
Yeah, it's fresh as bugger.
Put the feet up for a year, and all of a sudden he's kicking torch from the centre.
Nearly a mid-career breather and fire up again. But it was like, look, navigating that period, Beck, was like, I think that it held me in really good stead that I could get to that space of just gratitude and love for the game again. Would have been tough if I just had held on to a lot of resentment and, anger towards the club, felt whatever it may be. And, but no, that wasn't the case. And, I just had a lot of fun throughout that year, and it's continued on. Yeah.
I think one of the cool things was my off season. I was in Adelaide at the time, and my off season was actually coming over to Melbourne and play for Nunawading.
Yep.
And during that space of time, I actually worked out with the Bombers for a couple of months. And I remember that was kind of the year it broke.
True.
And I remember thinking, at the time I was kind of struggling in basketball. I went through a really good junior program, under 19 worlds, like a world MVP. And then you come into a program where there's grown ass men who are centers, shooting threes, doing all the shit you can't do, and then the guards are just running past you every single day, and then everyone's kind of making you look silly. You're not getting the minutes. And I was like, maybe I want to play footy. Yeah. I grew up playing footy. I love footy to death. And I remember having that conversation and thinking, this could be a real go. Yeah. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. And I remember doing the time trials. And then I remember like, that's fucking why I don't like footy. I was so like on the edge. Oh, right. And then they're like, okay, you need to do a 3K time trial. I was like, fuck, 3Ks. I was like, righto. They're like, yeah. So the midfielders are doing like, I think it was 3:15s or something like that. And then the forwards and the ruckman were doing like, I think it was 3:45s.
Yeah, still pretty cool.
And I remember my first K was like 4:10. I'm only going downhill
just
from
keep
here.
running to the car park.
I was like, okay, so I don't have the conditioning for AFL, but I actually remember the time of just speaking to the crew that were there and the management they're in, and they were like, hey, how have you enjoyed it? And I was like, I've loved it. And you had a court at your facility as well. And you guys were all down there and working out. I remember being in the locker room and looking around. And I saw your locker and your boots in there. I was going to steal them and put them somewhere else, but I didn't. But I just remember the feeling of like, I visualized myself in that space and then thinking like, this could be home one day.
Yep.
Was there ever a point during your journey that you thought, imagine if I went and just stayed with basketball?
Yeah, right.
Have you ever thought of that? It's probably a question you've never been asked, but I feel like a lot of basketballers have the opportunity to blend back into footy because it's a lot more natural, confined spaces like you said, but the other way around. Have you ever thought, you know what, I'd love to, I've given it a great crack. I've done a lot of great, all Australian, best and fairest. I've been a captain, a skipper. I've gone through some of the worst times in the AFL. But now, could I ever see myself playing another sport?
Mate,
could you ever do that, you reckon?
I love basketball still. I'd love it. And we've got a court there at the club, and it's awesome to be able to just shoot around and whatever. But, mate, I think for me, it's like I got to I was a weapon when I was 12 and then got to the age of about 16. That's when you started just flying and my wheels fell off the wagon at that age. So it was a pretty clear-cut direction for me to go down the footy path. But, man, like, I get a buzz still though, watching you play, watching the NBA, all of that, follow that with a passion. So it's like, mate, no doubt if I had the dream, I'd go and play NBA and be on an enormous quid over there. That'd be nice. But yeah, look, at the same time, just being able to be drafted, playing footy for the club I grew up barracking for is pretty special.
Do you think if they had an all-star game, AFL's top 10 ex-basketballers, now AFL players, you give them 6 months of training.
True.
You brought them over to play against an NBL side right now.
Imagine that.
How do you reckon you would fare, and who would you have in your starting 5 over the past decade?
That's not bad.
Because you've got some talented guys, Pendles, yourself.
Man, I don't even know if I don't think I'd make it. I wouldn't make the 5.
Well, you're the skipper, so you've got to pick yourself.
I'm point guard. You have Nat Nui for sure.
Nat Nui, because out of nowhere. Did you ever watch that? I think we have to overlay this. Nat Nui at a Perth Wildcats game, they said, hey, mate, do you want to do a dunk? And they gave him the ball at halftime, and he walked up in, I think, jeans, and he did a between the legs dunk. I swear to God, it's the wildest thing I've ever seen. You've got to YouTube this. We're going to find it and put it over the top. But I remember seeing this and thinking, what the hell?
What's off its head?
So you've got yourself, Nat Nui, Matty D.
We'd have, I reckon, Matty D be there for sure. He was a weapon. And then Pendles, Ruffy, who else can we reel off? Then... what about like Hugh Greenwood?
Huey,
Huey.
Got it.
Classic. All I remember from AIS
the
days.
Golden
and
Child.
Huey, classic skipper if he was ever on the bench.
Getting around.
And we would just take the piss. We're like, he's so intense, loved it. But just like the clap of following Creaky down the floor if you did a good thing.
Love that.
Love Huey. That's a big shout out right there.
Yeah,
absolute start
of the human. It's a fair team though.
That's a great squad. But with a bit of training, Huey came down this preseason actually. And we were working out at MSAC. I said, hey, mate, you want to come for a run round? We're going to play some like 3-on-3, 4-on-4. And he's like, yeah, sweet. He came down, and I tell you what, he was the best player to play with pick and roll still. Throwing dimes, making shots. And he's like, what's going on here? I was like, mate, we might be out of point guard at some point. You need to sign up, mate. He still had it.
I'll tell you what, though, I'd like to think that we could give you half a run for your money.
That's a fair squad.
I do not think so.
But a couple of months training, that's a fair, you got a fair effort.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'd get anywhere near it, mate. But I don't mind it, though. It'd be good fun.
I have an interesting question. I always like to, if I died and people are at my funeral,
Yes, okay.
like what would they say about me? Like, because I would love to be like, I was a great friend. I was I was loyal. I was, brightened up their day, whatever it was.
Yep.
Let's say we're at your funeral, but we're talking about your leadership.
Yep.
And like, I think this is also maybe hard because it's like, hey, I'm proud of myself. Like, what have I done that's, really well?
Sure.
What do you think people would be saying about you and your leadership and like what you've given them over the years?
Yeah, great question. I think I would like to say that I've been a really caring leader, a really caring teammate, and I feel like the energy that I bring to the group, I think I foster a really healthy environment for guys to be themselves completely, and feel a real sense of belonging as well within the group. And I hope they'd say that. I feel like it's not all about me. I lent on guys to help with my leadership and spread the load. And I feel like that'd be nice if they said a couple of those things. But yeah, for me, it was just trying to bring really good energy to the group, and just like that was when I took the role over. It was like, all right, anyone who plays under my leadership is just like can feel completely at home, feel like they can be themselves, and I feel like that sort of fosters an environment where they can just get the best growth out of themselves that they possibly can. So it's what I'm still trying to do, I guess. Yeah.
I think I've loved listening to you speak because even from early on, you were saying when I was 12 and you just wanted to look after your teammate is the first thing that came out of your mouth. And I think that's something that's super, I feel like I'm learning a bit now, like just talking to you, and this is great, but your team is first and you're more worried about them rather than you. And I think that speaks volumes of you and top bloke status. And
we love that. But it was a funny period. Like you go through your journey and of course you want to be the best that you possibly can be. And early in my career it was like, righto, I just want to get in the team. I want to play every week. And it was a meat focus. And then it was like, righto, I want to be the best. I want to win a BNF. I want to be an All-Australian. And it's like, all right, but then how fulfilling is that? And you get to that level and you're like, nah, stuff. It's like it got to a point where it was like, I'm just going to give as much as I can to developing my teammates, just being a bloody good teammate. And then I found I got so much more back, and just felt so much joy. And I'm a lot more prouder of those moments than I am of any of the achievements or the accolades or whatever it may be.
And I think you want to leave a legacy. This is how I see it. I 100% see this with you and Phoenix Creek is like, you want to leave the basketball or football space better than you left it. But say you and I, we both started Flyers and Phoenix from when it started to now. And it's like, I want everyone to remember how we made this club so special, and I want to leave it better than when we first found it, and the generations to come. It's like it's smooth sailing, and they're not having to go through the grit or the tough times, or keep on rolling the good times of what made it special.
Love that.
Yeah. Do you find that, Creaky?
I think that as you were saying that, it reminded me of I remember going back to my MySpace. Literally, this is really strange.
Unreal.
But I remember thinking like, fuck, I got a MySpace. Remember how stupid that was? Like your top friends was argued about.
If you changed it to top friend, you were cut off. My background was always like Calvin Klein or like D&G models. Who did I think I was?
Phenomenal. But I go back and I remember I wrote a quote, and it was just like, just trying to leave a path others would deem worthy to walk. And I wrote it, and I've never seen it be written anywhere else. Yeah. I wrote it thinking, probably at the time, oh, this will sound cool. Yeah. And then I got older and I was like, fuck, that made sense.
Real enough.
Trademark it.
I just want to leave a path that deemed worthy for others to walk.
Yeah, that's elite.
So it's about, I guess, making our own ways is one thing, but actually getting through it in one piece is another. And we get thrown so much stuff. It's hard to kind of deflect everything and absorb the good all the time, because sometimes in the midst of absorbing the good, you absorb a little bad. Yep. And it's like, I've got to deal with this now and find a way to navigate it. But being at a franchise, starting from the ground up, building it, you want to leave and then people go, that's not how we do it. When this person was here, this is the standard.
Yep.
Every day, this is the standard.
Yep.
And
Love
that's
that.
That's the thing I hang my hat on the most. Yeah. And I reflect back to that little mantra I said. It's just like, if someone looks at my progression and my development and my career and say, it's not about the accolades, because we all know that once you set a goal and you actually achieve it, that fulfillment ecstasy lasts about 30 minutes.
100%. Yeah.
And then after that 30 minutes, you're in the muse again and you're like, fuck, what now? Like there's got to be something else.
Yep.
And you realize that life's about kind of trying new things, sampling new things and enjoying new things.
Yep.
And along the way, navigating what was actually important along the way.
100%.
Because you go, that's really important. This bottle of water is so important. And then you get there and you're like, oh, that's actually not that important.
Yes.
And it was this thing over here. Then you go to that and then the next thing. And then you're 31, 32 years old and you're like, fuck, I'm about to retire. Like now you're starting to figure out. Now you're getting that enlightenment. And that's where, for me, it's about that path of, okay, would someone else in my shoes, when they start to transition into this part of their life and career, would they kind of follow a little bit of that path and then say, but I'm going to make it my own and figure out my own way?
Yeah,
I think that's the success secret for me. Isn't about winning every game. It's about having the moments that others now go, I'm inspired to do this. And it changes their kind of like life's navigation.
Yeah.
I think you've done an incredible job of that. And I think the way you've gone into developing yourself, and I know I've had a lot of conversations with Danny and he's spoken extremely highly of you and I've always spoken very highly of you.
Vice versa.
But I think right now you're in a place, and you can talk on this a little bit because we spoke about this last episode, the vibrational frequency in which you operate now is completely different. And when people talk about, vibration and energy, they go, ooh, that's stupid. Well, it's not. It's actually probably the most important aspect of my life. And I know it's definitely the most important aspect of your life. And it's becoming that of every single person in a high operating field, wherever it is.
For sure.
So can you speak about that and how you've gotten there, what that means to be on a higher frequency, to be on a higher vibrational pattern?
Yeah, really interesting, mate. That's I've loved the work with DK as well. It's been awesome, and I think, for mine, it was just an exploration period of like, how good can life get? How good can this be? How good can my days be? Because you certainly have these periods where it's just like you get stuck in an emotion or a thought or something that just brings you down, and you follow that rabbit hole and you create this story in your mind that you just cannot escape, and I've had periods like that for sure, where it just drags on for weeks and you end up in this sluggish, lethargic, angry, just bitter sort of space. And the energy that you're in is mirrored directly back to you. So what I've certainly found is like, okay, if I can have processes and routines and things in place to keep myself at a really high level, and just, and for me, it's like, it just comes back to that vibrational frequency. If I'm having fun, if my relationships are strong, if I'm eating good food, if I'm, putting myself in a really healthy frame of mind and body, then, as I said, that reflects back to you as well. So you're having deeper conversations, you're connecting better, you're far more present, which is probably more so what it all comes down to as well, is just being super locked into whatever you're doing right now. And it's been really cool. I've found moments where something would have ate me up a bit and ate away at me, of being able to become aware of that, accept that feeling, thought, emotion, whatever it may be, and just let it pass on by. And you sort of go, well, that was no issue. Yeah. And problems that were a problem in the past are no longer much of a problem. And I've just found like it's played a massive part in terms of my footy development, and not getting so stuck in mistakes and errors and even, fans slandering, whatever it may be. So, I'm still on this journey of like just figuring things out and having a crack, but it's been pretty cool.
Because we never really figure it out.
Nah, never.
We don't even get close. People go, oh, you've got it all sorted out.
Yeah, true.
I've got no fucking clue. It's the biggest misconception in the world.
100%.
They idolize, we idolize people that go through the same shit we're going through.
Yeah,
on a larger level, who may not be able to withstand it or accept it or move through it. Yeah. But they just pretend like they do. Yeah. And you're like, oh, once you really get to the bottom of it, you're like, we actually don't really know what's going on. But if we start to learn ourselves, we focus on ourselves and we put ourselves in a great space, as you said, well, then we can start to heal, whatever's going on, and whatever comes to you, you're not absorbing that bad. You're going, oh, you know what? You're actually silly. Get out of here.
That's
scram.
it. Yeah, that's
it. It feels really silly for me to do it at times, but I literally will be like, a thought will come in and I'm like, what are you doing in here? Get out of here, you bastard. And I watch it go away. Mate, and I literally like, I do it as a physical thing. Like, it's really kind of funny. Some people will look at me in the car or wherever, and I'll be like, oh, "No, you're not coming."
Mate, I love that. Love weird shit like that.
And it's my cue to be like, I'm not going to let this thought consume any part of energy that's not going to serve me for the greater good.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that part that attaches to the thought is the ego, and the ego has got us to a position where we're playing this elite sport, and it's now at a position where you're trying to remove the energy of the ego and become your pure self. You know, it's quite an interesting journey, this one.
Yeah.
You've obviously gone through an immense amount of experiences and the growth. I feel like we've spoken about your, leadership journey. For maybe teenage kids who are their leaders currently, or maybe that they're in their early 20s and they're in the leadership group and, their time is about to come. Is there maybe a few words of advice, words of wisdom that you think kids out there could really benefit from?
Yeah, look, I think for me, even now, it still comes back to the joy and tapping into the feeling of how you felt when you were a kid, just running around playing the game you love. I really trying to still harness that energy of like just that pure elation of going to training with your mates and kicking the footy in the backyard and trying to take hangers on your brother and things like that. Like I'm just like, all right, just keep remembering what the game is and how much fun you have playing the game, and don't get so caught up in the emotion of it all and the pressure and the atmosphere and things like that. So for mine, it's like just have as much fun as you possibly can, and the rest flows off that. And the rest of it is like the things that we have been talking about. I feel like the more you give, the more you receive. So get around your teammates, be an unbelievable teammate. And nothing just beats hard work as well. And that's part of the fun too. There's no better feeling than knowing that you have put in the work and you start seeing results, Yeah.
And you can go to sleep at night. You can rest your head easy, knowing whatever happens.
Yeah.
I know I was a good person.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, whatever happens is going to happen, but you can rest easy knowing you've done ABC and you've given yourself 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's to your deathbed point. Like I feel like we can finish our careers and finish our lives at the end and just go, I gave that a bloody good crack. Whether it's a flag or not, might not get anywhere near it, but I know I gave it a damn good nudge and tried my absolute best to bring myself and my teammates and the club to that type of level.
I don't know if I'm just tired from that week road trip I had, but I feel like I'm getting emotional because like we're all old and getting towards the end of our careers, and I'm like, I don't know, I was talking about acceptance before, but have I, Jesus?
True.
Everything hurts now. Like
all the time.
I finished the game yesterday and I got home, I got in the ice bath and I was like, far out, I'm sore.
Yeah.
My hands are aching. I was like, I'm carpal tunnel. Like, what's going on? Am I my mum playing the piano for too long? Like, what's going on?
Oh, it's a classic. But even that, man, like you go.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fucking
good. How much
good.
work you just put into your body and trying to stay healthy and your mental resolve and resilience. It's just like, you get to the end, you're just like, man.
But I think that's what makes us elite, because we're a little bit nuts.
Bit nuts. You gotta be good.
Yeah, you absolutely love it. But I think it is, just going back through your journey and I guess what we've done, it is so special. Like I feel we've woken up every day being able to do something that we love, and you've been given the opportunity, to lead your wolf pack. That's something that's super special and not everyone gets to do. I understand it's all relative. It might be different in a different situation or the person next to you, but I think it's so special what we've been able to achieve, and I think you should be so proud of what you've been able to do through, your career. And although you've given over the captaincy, like you said, I don't think leadership is a one-man show. Yeah. It takes a team. Like it is everyone like coming together and serving someone next to you, because like you said, leadership is all different. People respond to people differently, and even though you've given that over, you're still a leader. You roll out of bed. And that's just who you are.
True. Yeah, no doubt. And that's it. And it's just like, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it is just, it's so rewarding seeing other guys flourish in their leadership and that as well. So, yeah, it's been fun, guys. Good work.
It's been good indeed.
Thanks, Skip.
There you go, Skip. Get on them.
So good.
Now, this next little part is brought to you by Champion. This is our champion quote. This is the which of these two champion quotes best describes your view on leadership. So the first one is, a good leader takes a little more of the blame and a little less of the credit. The second one is, leadership is not about being liked. It is about being respected, even when making tough decisions.
Yeah, like them both. But I think the first one definitely resonates more with me in my style of leadership. Yeah.
Do you think that at some point in time in your career that shifted? And when do you reckon that shifted? Because as you spoke about before, like, I want to play and win a championship. That's what everyone wants to do. You want to go and win a flag. Like, I'm a Bombers supporter. My dad and my sister are. We always go on the boys. I love, more cross Specky in the square. That was the best mark of the century. Yeah. Fletch just punching like deflating balls from the full back to the full forward almost. So I grew up an Essendon supporter. And I know that's something that you want more than anything in this world.
Yeah.
But at some point in your career, it shifted. Is that still one of the biggest things that you would love? I know you want to tick it off, but if you don't get it, do you feel like who you've become is enough to finish the game?
There would be absolutely no part of me, and I can only say this until of the last couple of years probably, since doing a lot of work into just, what we've been talking about. But no doubt, you play footy because you want to win flags, absolutely. But at the same time, there's no part of me that would, if I was to finish my career, there'd be no hole left in me or no sick feeling if I didn't. It'd be, no doubt, be the best experience ever. Yeah. It'd be unbelievable, but
the parade, imagine that. I'd be in the front. I'd be strapped to the front of the float, going bananas.
We wouldn't see you for 2 weeks.
Dyson would pour a beer on my head at the front. I'd lose it. Dad would be right next to me, sister as well.
Legit.
It'd be grouse.
Legit. But yeah, as you say, there'd be no part of me that would feel an inch of sadness or whatever towards that, but absolutely would be incredible. But the point in my career that shifted around, taking more of the blame, was probably witnessing Job and the way he held himself throughout that saga and just being the front man of it all. And all he cared about was just protecting his teammates. And he took the brunt of everything. And it was just an enormous show of leadership, of care, of empathy for his teammates and the people that are close to him and people around him. So that was just a big, light bulb moment for me.
That's like, I got goosebumps like when you said that, because I remember situations that I've been in and other people have been in where they take every ounce of the blame and you're looking at them and you're like, this is so fucking cruel.
Yeah.
How the hell is this guy coming in with a brave face every day? Because they might be in the car, and I spoke about this with Beck in another time, but it's like, there's days where you're in the car and you're bawling your eyes out and you're upset and you've got to come in and you've got to be the leader. You've got to be the skipper, the one everyone, you walk in and, like, I think how we all sit is different to other people. Like, I sit like this and I'm like, I feel like an idiot. And I got to puff my chest up a little bit. You sit there,
I feel you.
Lat spread, ready for a double.
I'm not going to lie, I'm always upright with my legs out too. I don't know what that's saying about that.
But I think that's the part of leadership that people don't always see, is it's the tough times where you walk in and you have the unwavering ability to be your genuine self for the benefit of your team.
True.
Because that's the most important part.
Yeah, guarantee, man. That's just, you just talking about that moments where you're pulling up to the club, media in the car park, following you to the door stopping you for questions, and I don't want to be that wanker that bars them off, because I know they're going to ask the next bloke that comes in, so I'll make sure I'm the one to answer every question that they want and they can get on their way. And it's like sometimes just fronting up to those things with literally nearly tears in your eyes, but you're just like, fuck. Like, here we go again, and you just bunker down in the car and right, let's fucking go. And you get out there and
it's like a heavyweight match.
Seriously.
Come on, boys.
I remember going on AFL 360 once after my 200th, and we got smoked by the Swans. And I knew I was going into a bit of an absolute heated environment. I remember sitting in the car and I just smacked like Eminem, and it was just like fucking pump the tune. It's like, let's fucking go.
Eminem.
Like, fucking classic.
It was knees, weak, arms, and head. Just before you're ready to go and get absolutely blasted by everybody.
Fizzed up,
Mum's spaghetti all over.
But yeah, classic time. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. You do. Yeah, and at times you got to be, of course, vulnerable in front of the boys at times, but more often than not, you got to put on a brave face and just be that light for the guys to feed off. And they're always looking to you to see the dynamic and the energy of the group. So, yeah.
Well, Dice, thank you for being our ray of sunshine today and your true, authentic self. I think having this chat about, being a skipper and what you've been through has been really eye-opening for me. I've really enjoyed it. So I want to thank you so much for coming on our episode today. Obviously, we want to thank Champion. Without you, this episode wouldn't be possible. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, share it on your Instagram, whatever you want to do. And, download the Performance Circus with Mitch Creek and Beck Cole.
Let's go. Thanks, Dice. You're a legend, mate.
Good on you guys. Proud of you, both of you, and love what you're doing. Thanks for having me on. Good stuff.
Legends.
Good stuff.